Hi everybody, it's Andy Phillips here, and I have one of our wonderful pin hosts, Diane Greenwood. Hi Diane.
Hi there, morning.
And it is an absolutely fantastic morning today.
It is. It's
really want to be outside more than anything else. Anyway, so every week we do a meet the pin host, and so today's no different. And Harrogate Pin.
Yeah, it's a great meeting.
It's a great meeting. They all are. Look, I want to sort of just find out a little bit more about you, sort of your background, where you come from, what you're doing now, and that sort of thing. So I often start off these things with sort of the sort of obvious question is, why property in the first place? What got you into property?
Okay, well, I got dragged along as a plus one. Way back in 2010, it would have been to what it was called Property Quick Start then with Simon Zucchi, and it just opened my eyes really to property. We never thought that property was for people like us, that we could invest in property, that it was actually even possible for people like us. So to go along to that one day and realise that, first of all different people there and the successes that people would have, it just opened our eyes really that, oh, actually this could be something that we could do, because normal people do it.
Yeah. And I think this is the weird thing when you first start this. There's some very simple things that open your eyes very, very quickly. I remember going along sort of year 2000 to something, and someone saying to me that you can actually buy a property for less than the market value, and it's like, how can you do that? As a punter, someone who buys houses to live in, you sort of think, well, you're going to have to struggle over, you have to give them the market value, or maybe even top it a little bit, so you can get the house of your dreams and that sort of thing. And this whole concept of just opening your eyes that you're not buying the home of your dreams. What you're doing is buying a piece of investment property that you can actually either rent out or refurb and sell on, or and it opens up this whole sea of opportunities. You suddenly go, bloody hell, I could do that. I could get involved in this. And so that's basically what happened to you.
Yeah, it was who knew. Yeah. It was. Because I think when you buy your own home, you're a motivated buyer, aren't you? And that realization that actually there's maybe cleverer ways of doing things. I mean, my background is business, so I love numbers, and that drives businesses forward. But I kind of never really realized that property could be a business too. I just thought it was what you lived in, or you rented from somebody, and never really sort of thought about made the connection, I suppose, that normal people are investors too.
Yeah. So we have you on the panels now, because you bring a lot of experience in on some specific things, and one of them is obviously the HMO. We just had a HMO panel the other day, which you was on, and you brought again your experience into that. So you're obviously doing HMOs. What sort of brought you into the HMO side of it?
Well, when I did, because I did the Mastermind program in 2011, and at the time HMOs were. It was never a new strategy, but it was a new strategy, if that makes sense. Yeah. I was scared of them, if I was honest, because I have a cleaning business, and we'd done a few, rather sillily, we'd done a few student cleaning contracts, and so that was my idea of what an HMO was. So I was a bit scared of them to start with, but we just realised quite quickly that it was the best cash flow strategy. And our aim when I did the Mastermind year was to get to a position where we had enough income that my husband could quit his job. So we needed a cash flow strategy. So that's really where HMOs came in, it is a cash flow strategy.
So what do you actually do with HMOs right now then?
What do we do now? Well, we built our own HMO portfolio, and it became very clear that it was one of Simon's rules, really, was find a letting agent, don't manage them yourself. But we made the mistake of building our portfolio in an area where there wasn't a letting agent that could manage them. Because most letting agents are just specialised in single lets, and HMOs are a different animal when it comes to management. And so about 4 years ago, we realised, actually, we can't hand this portfolio over to anybody. What are we going to do? So that's where the house share company was born, in that we wanted to create a business around it so that we could be hands-free landlords, have some passive income. And very, very quickly out from that, because we'd already created some and done quite a few conversions ourselves and had our refurbishment team, we've started then doing HMOs for other people. So, sourcing them, converting them, and then obviously ultimately managing them, which meant that our landlords could then have passive income as well as us. So it kind of all just evolved together, and so that it now works together. So we're now specialist letting agency really, but also because we've got the developments business still, they all feed into each other.
Isn't it interesting that from the day you started, where you had completely no idea about the territory or the landscape you were going to be walking into, to the point where you've grown your own portfolio, so you've got income coming in that I would have thought would be good enough to not do anything else really. But then sort of thinking to yourself, well, there's a business to be had here. And this is what a lot of people tend to do once they actually start getting into the property side of it. They start with their investment side, sort of looking after their future, their pensions, whatever, increased income or whatever it is that their goal is. But they suddenly realize that there's a little niche here and a little niche there, and they have the expertise to fill that niche and help other people to do what they've done. And it's I just think it's quite amazing that you start off with no idea, and then suddenly you've got a HMO portfolio bringing in some decent cash. You've got a business which is helping other people who've got HMOs. I just find it incredibly interesting that the path that we can go down.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I said. I didn't know what I didn't know way back in 2010 when I went to the one-day quick start. Didn't even think property investing was for people like me. And then, not before you know it, because there's been a lot of hard work in those years. But, before you know it, portfolio. Mark, my husband, has, he did give up his job. So, he gave 28 years in one company, and he just gave them notice and left. It's just amazing that it can change your life, I suppose.
It is a lifestyle thing, isn't it? What sort of, you talked about some of the things that were maybe a little difficult when you was putting the business together and things like that. What sort of challenges have you overcome, and sort of how have you overcome those challenges? What was the biggest challenge you had to overcome? The
biggest challenge, I suppose, is because my background is business. I love systems, and I love everything to be sort of done in a certain way. So I suppose the biggest challenge is, you can't do everything in your business, and I definitely don't want to. So sort of taking on a lettings manager, and then sort of having to grow into a leadership role to sort of give the team that autonomy to get on with things, but also overseeing things and kind of just try not to micromanage. It's been a bit of a challenge, but something I've learned.
Letting people actually get on with stuff, I know how hard that is.
Yeah, there's guidelines and culture to sort of get involved in there. But that's managing a team, I suppose, is that I think the hardest challenge in any business. In terms of HMOs, it's really the relationships that you have to manage. You rent a property to a family, and you don't care if they fall out, because it's nothing to do with you as the HMO manager or the letting agent or the landlord. But when you've got an HMO and two tenants fall out, that has to be managed. You can't get on with it. That's the hard thing. It's all about people, really. They're always the hardest bit.
Yeah, people. Yeah, it's always the cog in the machine that is always the most difficult. So, what sort of led you to become a PIN host? Because it's not an easy. If you don't just turn up, wander in, and then wander home again, do you? I mean, there's a bit of work involved and a bit of dedication to that. So, what made you become a PIN host?
Well, the Harrogate PIN. I approached Simon about starting one, because there wasn't one in Harrogate. It's 2013 when we first launched it, and for me then it was all about creating a community around me. So. Right. It always starts from kind of what do I want, doesn't it? When you're doing something, which this is how the portfolio started. But with the PIN, it was a little bit of that, create a property community around me, and it just kind of explodes from there, really, because that's what the PIN is about, isn't it? It's about that networking. Yep, speakers are fantastic and it's educational, but it's also about that community that you can create. And I think all of our development clients, and therefore our managing clients, have come through the PIN community. So it's great from a business point of view, but it also means that we're servicing that community with our great product, and working with other people. It's fantastic. So that's why I started it, but also why I'm still doing it.
Still doing it, yeah, because there's a lot of sort of parts to a process of genuine growth with someone. You know, there's obviously the education is incredibly important. Mindset is incredibly important as well. You know, how you approach things, how you think about stuff. Because, you know, as I say, a lot of times when I'm doing stuff on mindset, it's this, you know, this little muscle up in the top of your head here can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And so there's a lot of the things we do within PIN is about mindset, as well as just education on, you know, property strategies and things like that. But I think one of the biggest things is this community. I mean, it's a bit of a pain at the moment because we've got we're in sort of lockdown. It's easing up a little bit now during the COVID-19 thing, but it is really important to get together and you know, feel as if you're part of something which is a little bit bigger, and you're not on this lonely journey. Do you feel that? Do you feel that PIN meetings create that sort of atmosphere?
Definitely, because it's the education is amazing, but it's the support and giving people the confidence. Probably a bit like me going back to Quick Start. Normal people can do this, so it's giving confidence in the room that they can do it too, and also encouraging them when you create that community that they'll do it together, they'll work together and help each other. So yeah,
it's been brilliant getting to know a little bit more about you. So let's just end this off with something which I ask all our PIN hosts, which is just, you know, do you have like a little tip or a piece of advice for maybe anybody who's new, who may not have gone to a PIN meeting yet, but is maybe thinking about getting into property as some sort of alternative way of making some additional cash, or just, you know, looking after the pension, which is why I went into it in the first place. You got any little tips or a piece of advice for those sort of people?
I suppose the first one would be kind of know why you're doing it, because that will help you choose the strategy. I think a lot of people get stuck. There are so many shiny pennies out there. There's so many different strategies people can try, and I'm not saying only stick to one, because there's a lot to be said for doing different things, but make sure you stick to strategies, or a strategy that is driving you towards what you're actually trying to achieve, if that makes sense. So we want my husband's income, so we needed a cash flow strategy to do that. You know, there's no point going into developments if you want to replace income, because they're single lump sums rather than a consistent ongoing income. So yeah, know why you're doing it, because that'll help you choose the right strategy. And also my second tip would be, if you're going to build a portfolio, so whether it's HMOs, single lets, whatever it is that you're going to build, make sure that you've got somebody to manage it in that area that you can work with and trust. You can even help them build their business alongside it. But it's really important to follow Simon's rule of don't do this to become a landlord, because that is not passive income. It's not financial freedom. It's a job. Yeah, you're sort of replacing one job for a much harder one in some respects, one you don't know too much about. So brilliant. Diane, that's been absolutely fantastic. Thanks for joining us this morning. And we are going to get you onto some more of these HMO panels, because, you know, again, as I say, your knowledge and your experience on that is invaluable. So thanks very much for the day. And we'll see everybody next Thursday for another Meet the Host. See you later. Bye, everyone.